right, ladies, we're going to continue on, and today we're going to talk about step 5. So this is the chapter called chapter 6, and it's called Into Action. Why? Well, because the next bit of work that we do is action steps, right? We started that action in our 4 when we did the action of writing out a personal inventory. We did a little self-exploratory dive into our sex life, where most of us have probably discovered that we're quite selfish, looking for that validation, and overall ignoring red flags, staying places that we shouldn't be too long, and, generally manipulating situations. Usually that applies to all alcoholics. I'm really good at that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into the next portion. So it says in the book, so we're on page 72, and we're not going to read line by line. That's not the purpose of the boot camp. We're just going to do an overall. We're going to touch on the highlights and discuss it. And it says, having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. If you're wondering where those are in columns 4 and 5. And we have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. What's the trouble? For me, it was selfishness, self-centeredness, and fear. Now we are about to cast these out. This requires action on our part, which when completed will mean we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery. So now we're going to talk about who we do our step 5, how we do our step 5, and when we do our step 5. So what the book just told us is we admit to ourselves, to God, and another person. It doesn't say that we have to completely keep bringing this crap up again. It doesn't say you have to admit this stuff to your boyfriend, new partner, every year, every time you get a new guy. You do this to God, yourself, and one other person. So once you've done those 3 things, you're done. You don't have to keep bringing it up at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, confessing all your stuff. This isn't confession. This is just a step 5 where we admit our wrongs and our defects, and we move on. So for example, if you were ever involved in the sex trade, you don't need to tell every partner going forward that you were involved in the sex trade. You've closed that chapter of your life. You've hopefully gotten a clear medical bill of health. Moving forward, there's no reason to open with that. But that's what we like to do because we have shame, right? That's the same with being an alcoholic. I have a girlfriend, and in the first 2 or 3 dates, she unloads everything about herself as a defense mechanism. Well, if I tell them everything at the beginning and they leave, then I'm safe, right? I see lots of heads nodding, and that's making sense to you. We don't need to do that. It doesn't hold shame to us anymore. It's a part of our past. It's a part of who made us who we are now. But if the person that you're dating isn't interested in who you are now, I'm not interested in them. That doesn't matter what I did 20 years ago. It doesn't matter what I did 10 years ago, right? Clean bill of health, do your step 5, and you don't have to bring it up no more. But we love to do that. We lead with our faults, right? So that to protect us from being hurt. Stop doing that. So what we're going to do in this process is we're going to pick someone. And the next part of the book, the next 4 paragraphs, talk about picking somebody. I'm not going to read all 4 paragraphs about how you pick your step 5. We're just going to have a discussion. You want to find a closed mouth person who is unaffected by anything you might say. So we want to find someone that we can trust to keep our confidence and someone who's not affected. So if Deanna knows 3 of the people that I've interacted with in my 5, anything I say to her might affect Deanna's relationship with those 3 people. So I can't pick her. So if your sponsor is your friend or is involved in your circle, that's not who you want to read your step 5 to, because something you say could affect them and their relationship with either you or that person. That's why I like doing this with someone I don't know. When we do our step group, we have step 5 readers. So I have a pot of people that are available to listen to step 5s. And the girls in the group pick a name out of the hat, because that's God guiding their hand to the paper, and they tell their 5 to a complete stranger. I myself have been called up and said, hey, I need a 5 listener. And I'm like, sure. And one example was I was told to go to a beach and park my car in a certain spot at a certain time. And a girl came, she got in my car, she introduced herself. We did her step 5. It took 3 hours in my car at the beach. She got out and left, and I've never seen her again. I only know her first name. She needed a closed-mouth person that she could tell her 5th step to, and that's it. Right? This is us telling someone our story, telling all the nooks and crannies and the shame and the guilt and the crap that we need to get out. Basically, we're opening up that dirty old closet, we're shaking off the skeletons, and we're discarding them. They're not useful. So we can pick anyone. Now, usually this is more appropriate to guys than girls, but we're all alcoholics and we have shady pasts. There are certain things that you don't want to tell someone because there's legal ramifications and statutes of limitations. In that case, you want to find somebody bound by their professional oath to keep your confidence. If you have murdered someone, if you have robbed a bank, or if you have done something untoward that could get you in trouble legally, find someone bound by oath of their profession to tell them to. Not all priests and pastors are bound. You need to ask the question. Are you bound by your profession to keep my confidence? I know from previous groups, Deanna works at a treatment center. She is a counselor. There are certain things she is required by law to report. Most likely those are child abuse type of situations, or if harm is going to be done to someone, right? Am I right? I'm right. Look at my memory. So we need to make sure the person we are telling our 5th step to, and you don't have to tell your whole story to one person. If there's illegal stuff that you have to tell to a lawyer who you have on retainer, right? You need to ask the questions. Are you bound by your oath to keep my confidence? Because just because it's a lawyer doesn't mean they're tied to you, because you're not their client. Client-lawyer privilege applies if you are their client. You're not the client, it's just the lawyer. You're not really following under the umbrella. Certain pastors are not bound by this rule. Counselors, Deanna, I believe, has a document or something that she tells them, and it clarifies what she can and cannot tell. So if you have just random good old alcoholic stuff, you can tell that to your listener. But if you have stuff that could get you in legal trouble, you want to tell that to someone who's going to keep your confidence by oath, right? Let's start talking about that, because I'm sure people have questions. Anybody? Deanna, you want to talk about it a little bit, because you have experience with that?
I can. I'm Deanna, I'm an alcoholic. So good to see you, ladies. Yeah, like Kimberly said, I have a document that I have, and what that document states is that everything that is discussed is confidential. However, the only thing that's not covered by confidentiality is if someone tells me that they're hurting a child. If they are going to commit suicide, I have to get involved with that. And if they tell me that, because I'm a mandated reporter for the children, and I would call the duty to warn. So if a person tells me that their plan is to go hurt someone, I have a duty to warn that person they're coming. And so the only thing that I'm obligated to call the police on is if there is a felony being committed in my office, or if somebody leaves my office under the influence. I'm supposed to call the police, and I've only had to do that one time. I hate when people put me in that position, because I hate calling the police on anyone. But other than that, counselors, licensed clinical professional counselors, psychiatrists, they're all bound, you guys. And so if really feel like you can't talk about something, there are always options to go.
Thank you, Deanna. And so I know that that's not going to apply to 98% of the women in the room, right? I have an obligation to tell you that for that 2% of the people in here that might have something criminal that is still within the statute of limitations. So the statute of limitations, for those who don't know, is there's a certain period of time from when the crime is committed to when you can be charged and tried. Once that's over, God, go tell everybody you murdered somebody. You know, not my jam, but hey, if that's your jam, go ahead. So, but for the 98% of us that are here that don't have anything criminal, you know, we want to find that closed mouth person that we can trust. It can be a sponsor, it can be a nun, it can be a complete stranger setup, it could be your doctor, it could be a therapist. But like we said, we want them to be unaffected. So I wouldn't recommend a family member. I know the book does say that. I really wouldn't recommend a family member or someone in your circle, right? If your sponsor and you run in the same social circle, look outside that circle, right? And that's a good rule of thumb. And so when you find that person, what do we do? Well, let's go back to the book. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about that yet? And like I said, Melissa, I'll get to you in one sec. There's never a case where someone can't find someone. I've had people say that, I can't find someone to listen to my 5. That's why there's other people here who have been through this process that are willing to help you, right? I'm not always the right fit, but there is someone who is, right? I had a gentleman approach me after an AA meeting because he had shared about not being able to find someone suitable to do his 5th step with. So after the meeting, I had a conversation with him and I said, what's holding you back? And he had a very extensive criminal gang background. Turns out I know a couple, right? So I was able to say, I think this guy would be good. He called up that guy and it was perfect, right? So this is another thing where we are agents for God. People who have been here before and have done this program, I like to call them alumni, right? We're step group alumni. They know people, right? So like a single college student, I'm going to refer them to my girl Maddie. A mom, I can probably handle it, right? A professional, I can handle a professional. A street person, someone with street cred, just for better terms, not street homeless, but street wise. I've got girls that I know that are in that area, right? So we know people, we can connect people to. So if you're struggling with finding someone to do your 5th step to, speak up. Or even if you're in the Facebook group, throw it in there. Hey, I need a 5th step listener. This person just needs to listen to you. And we're going to explain the directions in a sec. Melissa, go ahead. You're next.
I just wanted to say one of my favorite stories that I've ever heard you tell is of that young woman who you had never met before, and you went and sat in a car with her, and she told, and you listened, and you never saw her again. I thought that was very cool. It must have been very therapeutic for her.
Absolutely. And that was it. She had a very tight-knit recovery circle. And it was in the White Rock area. I know Melissa knows where that is. And so she had a very tight-knit recovery circle. And her husband was in the same circle. And it involved, the 5th step would have harmed him if anything would have gotten back. So literally she hopped in my car. I listened. She said it's just going to be a quick one. 3 hours later. Right? And that's okay. We sit and we listen and we chatted, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I had another girl, and she met someone random, and they met in a graveyard, and they sat on a bench in a graveyard and did a 5th step and went their separate ways. It just has to be another person that hopefully is understanding and closed mouth. Deanna?
I tell my friends the same thing. It's be fast. Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to point out is because obviously, you know, we've been very much on let's do it how the book talks about, and what I wanted to just kind of reiterate is obviously back in the day when they recommended talking to a family member, there were very little people in AA, so they were limited. And now we don't have that issue anymore. There's millions of people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so we definitely have a different kind of, so if anyone's kind of wondering, well, why aren't we doing it like the book says, that's why, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And doctors bill by the 10-minute increments, so you might not want to do it with your physician nowadays. But like we said, look at the technology we have. I've done fifth steps via Zoom. So we have access to this. There's no reason to delay in this process. All right, let's keep going in the book. So we're going to go to page 74, well, bottom of 73, top of 74. Says we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we cannot, or would not rather do this, we search our acquaintance for a closed-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps a doctor or a psychologist will be the person. And then it talks about the family. We're not going to do that. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one that someone is situated that there's no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence that he fully understand and approve of what we're driving at, and that he will not try to change our plan. So when we talk about changing our plan, how many people in here have done a fifth step where the person that they were listening to the fifth step had a notebook and was writing down things, and then at the end of it, told us our defects? Yeah. That's not what this process is about. We are going into this process with our fourth step in which we listed our own defects. The person listening to your 5 is doing just one thing: listening. The only thing that they should say back to you is me too, and maybe give you an example of how they overcame what you are going through. Nowhere in this book does it say, and we're going to get to this a bit more, that you read your fourth step top to bottom, left to right. It doesn't say that. Nowhere in this does it say that the other person is meant to interject and lead you down the path of your fifth step. It actually says that they're not to change your plan. This is to go how your heart to mouth comes. It's not to go how they direct you. They're not meant to sit and judge you and write down things about you. You're meant to tell your story, and we're going to get to that in a sec. But it says right there in black and white, they're not meant to change your plan. So they are there to listen. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have written an inventory, and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. So we are going to tell someone our story, and we're going to get into the instructions in the next paragraph. But we explain to the person what we're about to do and why we need to do it. Why do we need to do this process? We need to illuminate all those parts in our lives that are hidden in a closet. We want to bring all of the skeletons out of our closet to eliminate shame, guilt, and remorse. All of those things about you that you never want someone to know, you're going to tell someone those things. You're going to open up that closet, you're going to shine a big light in there, and what you're going to find out is that you're not unique. You're not the only one who's had these struggles or situations, And it takes away the shame. It takes away the guilt. It takes away that awful feeling that we have that we try to drink away. So what do? We're going to have lots of time for discussion. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. So the instructions are very simple. We pocket our pride and go for it, illuminating every twist of character and every dark story of our past. We're telling our story. How many people have done their fifth step where they started in column 1? This person did this to me, and I did this. Then this person did this, and I did this. Then this person did this, and I did this. That's not your fifth step. That's you reading a victim impact statement about all the shit that happened in your life. That is not a fifth step. That is why you've never had freedom. That is why you're probably stuck and hating the fourth and fifth step. The fifth step is telling your story, illuminating all the dark twists and crannies of your past, and finding freedom. I grew up here. When I was this years old, I was sexually abused. When I went to school, I felt ashamed of being abused, and so I had these behaviors which I carried into my teenage years, and I was promiscuous, and I got into trouble, and I did this and I did that, and as a result I had these fears and I had these character defects and I acted this way. And when I was in my 20s, I worked in the bar and I got involved in illegal activities and I had all this fear. And then I did this and I did that and I had a baby really young and I had all kinds of negative interactions with society. And then I got married and then I did this and then I did that and I had this fear and I had this conduct and I had this shame about this situation. It's a chronological telling of your story, illuminating all the crap that you don't like. And as you go, the other person's going to nod their head and go, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. And you're going to feel the shame fall off of you. That's a fifth step. And then you're going to get into all of the negative behaviors with drugs and alcohol and maybe more criminal activity and maybe more self-harming activity. You're not reading a victim impact statement. You're illuminating the dark crannies of your past, shining light on them. To hear someone else go, yeah, I get it. I understand. Me too. That's a fifth step. That's what we're going to do. And when we're finished, we're delighted. You feel the weight of the world come off your story, off your shoulders because you've told someone else all of that stuff that you've been backpacking around, all that shame, all that hurt, all that guilt, all that remorse. And you've heard someone else understand with non-judgment in their eyes. And that's the freeing part of the fifth step. And then what do? It says we look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. Great way to get past your fear is to tell someone all that shit that you've been hiding in the closet. All of that stuff that you've been afraid people will find out about you and judge you for. To tell another person all of those things and have them smile back at you and go, yeah, I get it. I felt the same way. I did the same things. And you go, wow, this person's accepting me for all of my nooks and crannies and darkness. That's the fifth step, guys. It's amazing. We begin to fear the nearness of our Creator. We may have gotten certain spiritual beliefs. Now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling of the drink problem has disappeared and will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Why? Because all of these things we've been packing around has been keeping us in our head. It's been keeping us locked behind a wall of fear. And what's on the other side of that was God. So if we imagine a train, and the train is our prayers, and the station is us, and the destination is God, the tracks are covered with all of this crap from your past. So the train can't get through. So your connection to God has been blocked. The train has been trying to get to that state, that destination, but it's stuck at the station because there's stuff on the tracks of your life. So we just clear it off. Stick by stick, we take that stuff off the tracks so that our connection to God can resume. Because that's what's been blocking us. Because we've been stuck here. So we need to clean the path from here to here, because this is where God lives in my heart. And all that crap in between has been blocking me. That's what the 5th step is. Clearing away the wreckage of your past that's been blocking you from God. Questions, comments, concerns, experience? Katie.
Hi. So I've done this once before, and like I said, I went through it, like you said, a victim impact statement, and then with my character defects were pointed out by the person that I shared this with, and then shortly thereafter, this person was my sponsor, and shortly thereafter, she decided that maybe a different sponsor would be a better fit for me because of my character defects, and referred me to like CODA and codependency and anonymous, and thought that I needed a sponsor that housed both, that it was both an AA and I think that just having shared all of those things, and then having this person who was my sponsor and had been walking me through this for quite a bit of time, has left me very afraid to share this with another human being. Yeah. And I guess I just needed to say that because this was just a really terrifying kind of step for me right now.
Absolutely. And it's a total breach of trust. It's a total breach of trust. And it's her directing your recovery. And she's not God. Right? People in this fellowship that call themselves sponsors are trying to pretend they're life coaches. And they're not. They're not qualified. All they're qualified to do is listen and read. And so if you have somebody that is trying to tell you what to do and tell you how to do it, find someone that's not. Find someone that's book-based and refers you to the book. My job is to listen and to read and to connect the two. That's it. There are a lot of people that do that. There's other people in this, they're like life coaches. They think they're qualified because they did a set of steps, and they're not. No one should be judging you and telling you what your defects are, because that feels crappy. From listening to everything that you just told me, this is what's wrong with you. Ew. No. So this is why we find someone, and there's tons of people, Katie, in this group and in the Facebook group that will just go on Zoom and listen, and you won't feel that judgment. Pick an alumni listener. I would definitely pick an alumni listener. And, there's a bunch of us that are more than willing to do that. And we've done this process through this group. That's why I think it's good to find someone that's done it this way, so that they're not going to change your plan. And we're not going to ditch you afterwards. I remember I had a lady here in my local community, and, well, not here because I'm on vacation, but back home in my local community. And she was like, I don't think I can tell you my 5th step because I'm going to tell you stuff and I don't think you're going to like me afterwards. And me, I'm like, if you got something that good, I'm going to like you more. Because all I ever hear is the same crap, right? Oh, I drank too much and I acted like a floozy and I cheated on my guy and I slept with all these people and I stole from my work and I did this and I did that and I did this for that. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's boring. Like the old lady in the rocking chair that was a murderous hooker, favorite story yet. Like, I love that shit. Right? That's me, right? So it's like, I'm that close-mouthed friend that I don't care what you tell me. I'm like, if it's juicy, tell me. I like hear the same shit over and over in these 5th steps. Get me something good. you got a good fifth step, call me. I'm excited to hear new stuff, right? Because that's just it. We think it's so shameful and so guilty, but after listening to 100 or more fifth steps, it's all the same. Girls, we're all the same. 90% of us in this room have the exact same fifth step. Exactly the same. The situations might be briefly different or just smidget different, but there's not much that's way out there that we're going to be like there's not much that shocks me. Not much that shocks me. And I mean, my biggest defect is going, oh, that was boring, right? Like, oh, that was monotonous, but it's not, right? We all have the exact same stuff, but we all feel so shameful. We all feel so awful about the stuff that we did. But we're all alike. We've all done the same thing. It's all based in the same fears. And that's the freeing part of the fifth step, is hearing someone else go, yeah, totally. Did that. Oh yeah, I did that. What about this? Oh yeah, I did that. I mean, I had, when I did Maddie's fifth step, Maddie had, she had something. So what I do, and we're going to talk about this next, is I'm like, did you leave anything out? And then you go home and you do your meditation. We're going to talk about it in a sec. And then I talked to you the next day and I said, okay, was there anything that came up in your meditation that you forgot? And she goes, well, there was this one thing, but I'm not sure. And I'll tell you, there's always two options. One is weird sex things with animals as a teenager. And the other one is, just random weird stuff. And so she had one, and I said, oh my God, I have that. I did that too. And she's like, no way. And I had never done it on a fifth step because I hadn't forgotten about it. And so I was able to do a fifth step. So she did a fifth step with me where she's like, I missed this one thing. And I'm like, okay. And then she told me what it was. And I'm like, oh my God, I had that too. And I've never realized it. And so I was able to, at the same time she did it with me, do it with her. And then we both went and did the amends process for that item. Right? So there's always things that come up. I had a girl do a fifth step with me. And after we did the fifth step, we went to listen to a speaker who is now my sponsor after that night. And in listening to the speaker, she realized she forgot to put abortion on her fifth step. And I said, perfect, let's go and do a mini 4 or 5 right now. We'll deal with that situation. So there'll be things that will pop up later on where you'll hear something and be like, oh, I totally forgot about that. Just call up somebody and tell them. And you don't have to formally do it either. Like, I don't have to go, hey, Deanna, I thought of something overnight that totally forgot to do on my fifth step 5 years ago. But, I'm just going to tell it to you now. No, I'll be hiking with Andrea and I'll just rattle it off in a hiking story. And now I've told someone. You don't have to formally say, I need to tell you a fifth step. You just need to tell another person. The more casually you do it, the less likely they are to realize that you've done it, right? The requirement it is, tell God, tell it yourself, and another person. So if I have something come up, Andrea is usually my go-to, and we'll just be hiking on Sundays, and we'll just randomly tell each other stuff and get it off our chests. That's a mini 5. You just have to tell another person. Nancy, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm an alcoholic. Is it still helpful to do like a full 5-fifth step if I've mostly told everyone everything I've done?
Great question. That's a great question. So if you've done a fifth step before where you've told your story to another person and you're just doing this to catch up or do it a new way, you just got to tell the stuff you haven't told, right? The requirement is not to keep telling your story. If you've covered it, it's done. But if it's something that's bubbled up, say you've done a full fifth step 5 years ago, and in the last couple years, you've had some things happen in your life and some things have changed, and so there's some things that have bubbled up. All you got to do is do the stuff that's bubbled up or that you've missed. We don't have to recap the whole thing. Sometimes you will need to back up a little bit to set context, right? So it might be, well, there was a few things leading up to this situation. That's, just setting up the story so that the person can get the full picture. That's about it. But yes, if you've already covered it and told it and got it off your chest, then it's fine. What else? Anybody else? like I say, I do mini 4-5s all the time. The purpose of this whole program is to learn how to do it, to keep doing it, right? That's what the 10th step is. We continue to watch for these things and we tell another person. Where people go wrong in their recovery is they do this process once, right? Like I know girls, they do a set of steps every September. But then they don't do anything October through August, right? So my whole thing is I hike with Andrea every Sunday. Every Sunday I get an opportunity to get a bunch of stuff that's happened off my chest throughout the week. And that's the great thing about how we can practically apply this to our lives. If you get in the habit of constantly telling people when things come up, you're going to be constantly doing this, and you won't have to do a mini 4-5, or you won't have to do a full 4-5 because you've been constantly covering it, right? My favorite one is when I cut my finger in the dishwasher and I lied and said I was doing it at work because I didn't think I was good enough if I was doing housework compared to if I was working. So I called up my girlfriend and I'm like, you're never going to believe what I just lied about. She's like, what? I was like, I cut my finger in the dishwasher and I said I did it at work. She's like, why? I'm like, because I totally thought that made me less than if I cut my finger in the dishwasher, and it sounded better if I cut my finger working, right? Because that's how my brain works. I want to be better. I want to be smart and successful. And what does it say if I cut my finger in a dishwasher? Like, it's stupid. But that's what we do. And just admitting it to another person took away that stupidness and called myself out on it. The 5th step is calling yourself out on your shit. Guess what? I've not lied about anything like that since. Right? And then just other, like, mostly mine is dating related. And so, like, I'll bounce that off Andrea when we're hiking. And that's, like, so great. And when I call my sponsor with something big, like today I had to deal with my lawyer. It didn't bubble anything up for me. Great. But if I called her and I was like, oh, I was dealing with the lawyer today, and it gets me riled up sometimes. And you know what her number one question is? What fears are coming up for you? Because usually my reaction to things is based on fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being found out, fear of losing, right? Fear of not being a good parent, protecting my kids in this legal battle. So, you know, we want to be able to get to a point when we get to September, we're looking for these things as we go along. And then we just bounce them off people. But we got to feel comfortable talking about our stuff. And this is the first step to that. Diane.
Hi, how are you? As I clear my throat. Here, I've been trying to do this. I'm going to put my face on. Yay, my face. It's a face that only a mother can love and speak to other people.
We love you.
Anyway, I know. You guys are fantastic. Anyway, literally by 3:15, I'm leaving for, a lot of things. Today is truly my 5-year not drinking. And so, yes, 5 years, July the 9th. And I know yours is around the corner. I'm not going to Greece, but I am. I think I was there as a kid. My parents, my dad sort of luckily fell into the foreign service. He was going to be a history teacher. And anyway, the point is I got to travel a lot. I don't remember any of it. It's like, but I was there. I see pictures. I'm like, oh, that's me. I think I had a good time, maybe. So anyway, too bad we can't remember the past. Except the bad things. That's the whole darn point. How is it possible that my brain works? I only remember everything that was bad. And I'm not saying that in a sort of a hyperbole way. I'm like, really, it's true. So the other thing is, about 3:15, I'm going to go to the metro here and go on a bus to New York City. Why? Well, I'm going to visit my sister, Randy, who lives in Brooklyn. And I've mentioned before, she has just found out a year and a half ago she's got cancer of the bile duct, which is really a drag. She's healthy. And as I said last night in the meeting, I am the only alcoholic in my whole darn family. It just doesn't happen. I don't know. It's just low self-esteem. Boom. Perfect match. It's kind of like match made in, on the dating site. Huh? So anyway, the point is, so she's doing okay because she's very healthy, and she tries one protocol and they use it till it stops working, and now she's doing another protocol. So I'm nervous to see somebody, when someone's sick, they have something serious. It's kind of awkward. I mean, talked to her on the phone, and I may have told you this. My first reaction was, now I can't complain because she's sick. I can't be the whiny person. she's actually forbid me from saying anything self-deprecating. She's like, don't say anything self-deprecating. But as far as this fifth step, goes, I feel like that is when you said, and it was a very honest share, I feel humiliated by my life because I never succeeded. I had the brains, not brilliant, but certainly average, smart, and I just blew it all with alcohol and low self-esteem. So how do I'm trying to figure out how am I going to feel, and I have been working on the fourth step. How am I going to feel better? How am I going to say, instead of being a professional of some sort or another, I just putz through. That's the big, wow, possible? What? I used to always drink when I packed for any trip, because how can you pack without drinking? What do you put in the suitcase? I just put everything in anyway until it's full. Like, okay, it's full now. But I don't know. Oh, plus I have a few pictures in a show in Coney Island. So I'm kind of I do photography, so they're going to show some pictures. And so that's kind of nice. I can say something nice about myself. There you go, Diane.
Okay, so I'm going to say some nice things about Diane, too, because Diane just said she's not a success. But didn't you all just hear that Diane successfully achieved 5 years of sobriety today?
Yay for me.
And didn't you all just hear Diane say that she does photography and she's in a show on Coney Island?
Yeah. Pictures.
Those are 2 successes. Hello.
Thank you. And a third success. My third success is being part of the 164 group.
Yes,
that is,
and you've committed and you're always here. Okay, I was on Instagram. I love you, Diane, and I've got something for you. And it's going to be kind of rough and sketchy, and I apologize, but I saw this on the Instagram Reels, and Judge Judy has a message for you, but I have to get it set up. Hang on.
She's always mean.
Hang on, hang on. Okay, so you got to listen because it's going to start right away. I hope you can hear it.
If you didn't make it in your 20s, you can make it in your 30s. And if you didn't make it in your 30s, you can make it in your 40s. And if you didn't make it in your 40s, you can make it in your 50s. And just remember Grandma Moses. So she was a painter. And she didn't start painting until, I think, in her 80s. And one of the most prolific painters.
Never too late.
Never too late.
Never
So have fun. That's what it's all about.
That's true.
You didn't make it in your 20s,
Have fun.
You can make it in your
that is what I believe. Like
that
when I pray
is
to my parents.
Judge Judy's message for Diane today.
Thank you. I'm going to try. Why not?
You look gorgeous today.
Well, Max said the other day, how do you put it? He goes, flip the script. I think it's his exact words.
Change the story.
And that's what I'm going to do. And Joanne said to me, and I really agreed with her. She says, part of my problem is I'm addicted to being negative. And that's true. I'm like, all my thoughts are always like, oh, I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Well, and the definition of a spiritual experience is the complete change in ideas and thoughts and actions. So you need to put into action the action of changing your negative to a positive.
I'm going to do that.
Story.
I'm going to do that. It's going to make people feel weird around me, but they'll be like, Diane,
we don't feel weird. See, we don't feel weird because how many people here have self-deprecated themselves? How many people here had low self-esteem? That's why we're here. You're not unique. You're just an alcoholic.
Yay! And I can't say that I murdered anyone yet. I'd like to sometimes.
See, that could be interesting. I like that shit.
Thank you. I don't want to take up all the time, but thank you.
I love you, Diane, and congratulations. Congratulations.
I feel good about it. I didn't
drink,
and I'm glad.
And
without drinking.
And did you all notice that she didn't undermine her 5 years of sobriety by calling it sobriety? She actually took 5 years of sobriety. Diane, that's what you did. You did not drink for 5 years. Don't undercut that. All right. Where am I? I forgot my big book, so I'm on my phone big book. So what do we do next? Returning home. We find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. This is a very important part of the 5th step. Carefully reviewing what we've done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12th step. So that's the second page of chapter 5. I believe it's page 58. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. We ask if we have omitted anything. For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skipped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? So now remember, we're building an arch, and I don't have my book here, and my notes are in there, but I'll definitely pop it up, and I think it's in the Facebook group that I made a little picture. So the foundation. So this is the fun part. The foundation of my recovery is tied to the foundation of your recovery. The foundation of my recovery, as someone who's been through this process and is living this life, the foundation of my new life is working with others and passing this on. The foundation of your new arch is becoming part of the fellowship and learning this process. And then from there, we start building the stones. And the stones are found within the book. And if somebody has them, Diane has them, or Deanna has them, thank you so much. They can be found in the book. So the cement that binds us together is the common peril. The cornerstones are in step 2. And then we have the center stone, which is our step 3, which is the arch at the top. And through that, we're going to walk to our freedom. And the path is made of the action. And then what happens is we get to our new life in recovery, which is based in the foundation of helping others. And that's the arch that we're building. So we want to make sure our work is solid. We want to make sure we have all of these things firmly in place. Do I have the foundation of complete willingness to work with another person? Do I have that cement, which is that step 1, where I am in that common bond that we are hopeless in our step 1, powerless against alcohol? I have that allergy. I have the malady. Remember, most of us here are duly addicted. The allergy only applies to alcoholics. But step 1, it could still be applied to any other addiction: drugs, gambling, sex, love, shopping, eating. You're powerless over it. And we have our step 2, which is our cornerstone, and that's based in that willingness to do this because we see it's working in someone else. So I'm willing to believe in something because I see it working in you. Then that keystone, it's a decision. I'm not turning it over. I don't turn my will over to God. I make a decision to turn my will over to the care of God. Step 3 has the word care in it. I don't turn it over to Him. I don't give my will away. I keep my will. I ask God for His care and protection as I go throughout my days. God is my GPS. Step 3 is making the decision to follow that GPS. That feeling you get when you know it's wrong, that's God's GPS going, beep, 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 you're off track, bitch. Get back on the broad highway. Right? Right. My GPS was going nuts the past couple days. I was, even on my hike this morning, my hiking app has an off-trail notification. It beeps me and it says, bitch, you're off trail. You're leading your kids up the wrong side of the mountain. Beep, beep, beep. Correcting. So I get back onto the proper trail. Download that. That is making a decision. Step 3 is just making a decision to follow that GPS of God. Turning my life over to His care and protection. It's still my life, ladies. I always have a choice. I have my will. He's going to watch over and protect me as I go through my day. And I'm going to work for Him by living my life in love and light. I'm going to be an agent for Him. I don't serve AA. I am not a servant of AA. I'm a servant of God. I'm here to lead my life in a way that inspires other people to live this life. In AA and out of AA. Right? I missed that part. That's where I changed my direction a couple months ago. I thought I had to serve AA. I thought I had to bust my ass 24 hours a day. No. God wants me living my big sober life, sharing it with people to attract them to this life. I had it wrong. Why? Because people told me that. People told me that. I busted my ass 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and didn't enjoy my sober life. God likes to show off, and He likes to show off through you. Right? And I don't get to take a holiday. Right? I'm on vacation. I still got up. I still went hiking. I still prayed. I still meditated. I still do my big book study. I still eat healthy. Why? Because these are the things that I did that got me this amazing life. My alcoholism never took a vacation, so my recovery can't either. So these are the things we want to build this foundation. So this is what we do is we go home, we sit, we do an hour of meditation. We reflect. Have I missed anything? Is my work solid? How do I feel about this? Is there anything I left out? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Right? And this is where when I do this with someone else with the fifth step, the next day I always call them and I say, how was your hour of meditation? I'm like, what did you leave out? And they'll say, well, there was this thing. Right? There's usually something. And you're like, okay, good. There's always something that we forget because we don't think it's important, but it will come up in that hour of meditation. Or if you have a question, like how do you feel right now after your fifth step? So the homework, if there's no questions, is to find a trusted person. Do a fifth step. And if you haven't been here and you're just joining us, just call someone. Call someone and tell them all the shit that you've been shaming over. You don't have to have written a fourth step to do this process, Diane. Call someone this weekend and just tell them all the things you feel shameful for. Look, Wendy's got her phone up. Diane, call Wendy. Like, we don't have to formally write out a fourth step to do this fifth step. If you're just joining us today and you haven't written anything out and you just kind of are feeling shitty in your recovery, just call someone up and tell them what's been going on. That's a fifth step. Tell them all the stuff that's causing you shame and guilt and remorse that you just want to get off your chest. Go for a hike and talk to someone while you're hiking about all the stuff that's going on with you. And then come back next week. Monday, we are not going to have an official meeting because I'm going to give you guys some days to do this process. So today is Friday. You're going to have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I will be on Monday, but we'll just have a chat session for anybody who has questions or just wants to chit chat. And then Wednesday, we will move on to steps 6 and 7, which are freaking awesome. Shortest 2 paragraphs in the book. So the homework is to do your fifth step over the weekend. You have till Wednesday to get her done, Diane. Call someone and just tell them all that stuff. See how you feel afterwards. See if that motivates you to actually write out a fourth step. And that's what we're going to do. So let's close up with the Serenity Prayer. And it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.